You ever see a whole airline get grounded not because of a bomb threat, not because of weather, but because one black woman in a captain's uniform decided enough was enough? Yeah, that happened, and let me tell you, the first time I realized what was about to go down, I actually laughed because it was so damn bold it felt unreal, like something you'd see in a movie, not in the fluorescent glare of O'Hare Terminal 1 at 6 in the morning. Let me back up a sec. See, none of this started with a big, heroic speech or some viral moment. It started, as so many things do, with a kid. Malik Johnson, 17, nervous as hell, first time on a plane by himself. The guy looked sharp, tie a little too tight, shoes polished so hard you could see your reflection. He'd hustled his way to the National Science Innovation Competition first-class seat. Gate A23, boarding pass, clutched in his hand like it was the golden ticket. "I got this," he whispered. Man, if only he knew. He boards, and from that first step onto the jet, you could feel the shift in the air. Captain Calvin Tucker was posted by the cockpit, fake smiles slipping as he clocked Malik. Yeah, he clocked him all right, just long enough to plant a seed of suspicion. Whispered to the flight attendant, then kept staring. Malik tried to shrug it off. You know that feeling, right? When you just want to meld into the seat and not make trouble. That's what he did. Until Tucker started up the drama, claimed he felt sick, stalled boarding. Then next thing you know, two security guys are marching down the aisle, telling Malik to grab his stuff and come with them. First class went dead quiet. Nobody said a word. Nobody looked up except to check it wasn't happening to them. Malik's hands were shaking when he handed over his ID, voice wobbling. "I've got a competition, sir, please." They didn't care. "The captain has concerns, son." That's all they'd say. He watched a shot at MIT, at a life-changing scholarship, swirl down the drain, right there on the jet bridge. Meanwhile, Captain Jasmine Wright, yeah, the only black woman captain at Sky America, uniform crisp, eyes like steel, watching all of this from her own plane at the next gate. Jasmine didn't need to hear the details. She's seen this play out 100 times in smaller ways, sometimes to her, sometimes to others. But this time, something snapped. See, Jasmine had spent her whole career dodging these landmines, working twice as hard to be taken half as seriously, smiling when folks called her the diversity hire behind her back, biting her tongue when passengers asked to see the real pilot. But that morning, watching Malik, seeing herself in that kid's hunched shoulders, in the way he tried to hold on to his dignity, she just knew it was done. "Not on my watch," she muttered, peeling off her hat. You know what I mean? You ever have that moment when you're so damn tired of swallowing the same poison you just decide to spit it back, no matter what it costs? That's where Jasmine was. She tried to handle it the right way, pulled Tucker aside in the pilot's lounge, laid it all out, called him on his pattern, asked why. Exactly, a teenager in a suit with a spotless record was such a security risk. Tucker, of course, started with "it's not about race" routine, but he couldn't keep his mask on, let slip. "You people always make it about race" line, right in front of two other pilots pretending to be invisible. You could feel the temperature in the room drop. Jasmine didn't back down, pushed for an investigation. The director of ops tried to brush her off, said she was overreacting, that Tucker was one of our best. Verbal warning, that's all Tucker got. Jasmine was done playing nice. Here's where the twist comes in. She started digging. Accessed the airline's internal complaint system, using her captain's credentials, and what she found, man, it was worse than even she expected. 14 complaints against Tucker in 5 years, all brushed under the rug. Passengers offered hush money. Internal notes, calling them politically motivated. It wasn't just Tucker. She found the same patterns linked to a few other systemic, top to bottom. She found emails from executives planning to use her face in diversity campaigns, while keeping the real rot hidden. At this point, Jasmine knew it was bigger than Malik, bigger than her. She started gathering allies, quiet talks in back rooms with flight attendants, gate agents, even a few pilots she'd always thought were company men. People were scared, but they were ready. She copied everything: evidence, memos, testimonies, prepared to blow the whole thing open. Meanwhile, Malik was fighting his own battle in the terminal, shuffled from one agent to another. Every conversation more humiliating than the last. They flagged his record. TSA grilled him for an hour. He missed his competition. When his mom called, angry and scared, Malik felt helpless, but he did something brave. He filmed a short video, raw, just telling the truth about what happened. He posted it online and tried to move on. But the internet isn't what it used to bay his story spread. A civil rights attorney named Taryn Washington spotted it, reached out, offered to represent Malik. Suddenly, people were paying attention. Meanwhile, Jasmine's evidence found its way to Washington too. Now there was a planned illegal fight, sure, but something bigger too. Operation Ground Stop, that's what they called it. At 10:30 a.m., on flights across the country, Jasmine and her crew staged a coordinated stand-down. Announcements over the PA, statements of fact, grounded planes. On Jasmine's flight, the CEO himself was sitting in first class. Imagine the look on his face when she announced, over the speakers, that the airline was under investigation for systemic discrimination. Passengers recorded everything. Chaos exploded on social. Skyam Exposed went viral. Tucker tried to step in, mouthing off about race cards and special treatment, didn't realize he was being filmed. His words, caught raw, changed everything. Employees who'd stayed silent stepped forward, flight attendants, pilots, even ground crew. Their stories, layered on Jasmine's evidence, left the airline nowhere to hide. The fallout was fast and brutal. Media swarmed the airport. Stock tanked. The CEO resigned. Tucker was fired. An independent investigation was ordered. Jasmine was suspended, sure, but she was a hero to the public. Malik got his day, offered a full scholarship, given a formal apology. The legal team, with Jasmine's help, forced the airline to overhaul everything: training, complaint systems, oversight. And the story didn't end there. Civil rights leaders formed a new initiative, forcing meetings with government agencies and other airlines. Jasmine, though battered and bruised, was offered a real leadership role, not just as a token, but to shape how things worked for real. Malik, once just a kid with a dream, became the youngest speaker at a congressional hearing on discrimination in transportation, sitting beside Jasmine. And yet, it's funny. The airline tried to wrap it all up with a bow, offer settlements, try to buy silence. Jasmine and Malik refused, demanded open reforms. The industry, for the first time in decades, was forced to confront itself, not just a few bad apples, but the whole orchard. 3 months later, Jasmine flew again, greeted by crew members who now saw her as a trailblazer, not a checkbox. Malik, now a rising star at and might visited her cockpit, and together they looked out over a runway that suddenly seemed wide open, not just for them, but for everyone who'd ever been told, you don't belong here. But here's the real question. Will this be just another news cycle, or the start of something bigger? Would you risk your career, your comfort, to do what's right for a stranger? Or would you sit quietly and hope someone else steps up? Share your answer below. If you believe stories like this matter, hit like, subscribe, and help this message reach someone who needs courage today. Because, in the end, change only happens when enough of us decide silence isn't safety, it's surrender. Thanks for listening, and remember, justice begins with the stand you take, even when your voice shakes.